Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 25 of the E-commerce Revolution podcast. 25 episodes in, not bad. All right, I love it. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can, by the way, see plenty of all of 24 episodes that were on previously. A lot of good information on there, and we're really here at the end of the day to help educate and entertain you on all things e-commerce. And we love e-commerce, everything about it, and there's a lot to learn. I feel like e-commerce continues to be in its infancy. So let's get started with this wonderful topic today. We'll jump in just a second. So recently, my wife and I bought a mattress. We decided to go, rather than going out to the mattress shops, we decided to do it online. Bed in the box is a hot thing. We took a look at a few different sites, but one site in particular really caught our attention. And the reason was it had a quiz, and it pulled us in. It started asking us questions about, height, weight, what position do you sleep on? And I put in all the information for myself. Then I put the information in for my wife, and there was a cross section between the two of us, and the system delivered several different mattress types that would be perfect for our body type and the way we sleep, which I thought was a really, really good way to get me interested and excited about buying the mattress. Well, lo and behold, this is actually a really, really popular way to help grow your email list, as well as grow your revenues for e-commerce. I already knew this going into it, but it really gave me and opened my eyes even further to how important the quiz process is. And we shouldn't look at quizzes as something like back in school. We were given quizzes and maybe we rolled our eyes up in our head and like, oh my gosh, I don't want to answer questions. These are really, really helpful questions that brands are asking their consumers that will ultimately help to grow sales and grow something called zero-party data, which we will talk about in just a moment. So very slick process to ultimately get this. And yes, we did buy the bed. And yes, we are very happy with the bed. And I would say for the most part, the system selected the perfect bed for us. So it is fantastic. So with that said, today's topic is going to be all about quizzes and how quizzes can help grow your email and SMS marketing list, as well as grow your revenues. Our guest today is an expert in the world of quizzes. He is the co-founder of Prehook, and which is one of the leading quiz builders for Shopify brands. With over 86 5-star reviews on the Shopify App Store, Prehook is delighting customers both big and small. So without any further ado, please welcome Gen Furukawa to the E-commerce Revolution podcast. Gen, it is awesome to have you here.
Ramin, thank you so much for the great intro. I'm curious to know, what brand was it that you bought?
It was Helix, actually, one of the brands that you had mentioned in one of your webinars too. And
for sure,
turned out to be a great bed. I will say that I was turned on to them by the SmartList podcast because they did a lot of advertising on the SmartList podcast, but it was the quiz really that ultimately took me through the right process. And I think you would agree that the quizzes, they do work for many reasons, right?
Totally. That's really an interesting perspective to hear from you as a consumer, because I do know, of course, like they definitely advertise their quiz as their top of the funnel, their lead gen, but within that, it's almost a Trojan horse of a marketing strategy.
It really is.
There's a lot of exchange of information as if you were going to walk into a mattress store, speak with a sales associate, maybe lie on a few beds. But they're having that salesperson 24/7 at scale for however many visitors.
That's a great
mattresses,
point.
Mattresses are a very interesting niche because in some ways they're very commoditized now. Like whether it's Casper, Tufted Needle, Purple, they all have 100-day return policies, free shipping, and they're pretty much all beds in a box. But where Helix might stand out is that they gave the information. So I kind of do know the questions off the top of my head, like who's buying it, how tall are you, how much do you weigh, how many people are, what size are you looking for, where are the pain points in your body, how do you sleep, all these questions. And then they kind of like package that up and then give you a personalized recommendation, and then also the follow-up email flow.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just really interesting because all of a sudden you are giving them enough information where they can position their product, differentiate their product, and play exactly to what your needs are, which is far more compelling than just say like, oh, here's why
Right.
Helix
Here's
is
why you need
great.
our
And
brand. Yeah. Here's why you need
yeah,
our mattress. And it's funny. I mean, as a marketer, I just fell right in. I'm, oftentimes evaluating marketing, as I come across it or as it's presented to me on sites. But I really just fell right into it as a consumer. And, the end result was good. And I didn't look at it as a scenario like, oh, I got to, I got to answer questions. I looked at it as like, I'm going to get something on the end. I'm going to get some good information on the end. So
yeah.
no, it's great. It's great. Well, it's fantastic to have you on the show today. I really appreciate you coming on. In the pre-show, we talked about, you've got a lot of great content out there, both your podcast, webinars, a lot of good information about the world of quizzes, the world of email and SMS marketing, how this zero-party, data is important. But before we jump into all that, I just want to know, where are you calling in from today?
From Austin, Texas.
All right, good.
Fellow Austinite.
I'm setting you up. We did talk about that earlier. I'm also in Austin, Texas. So I love the fact that we've got two marketers sitting here in the world of Austin, Texas. And I look forward to meeting you in person, maybe next week. We talked about pickleball being something that's happening here in Austin, and everybody's getting together. So that's awesome. So tell me, I took a look at your profile. You have a very interesting entrepreneurial journey that's led to Prehook. Could you just tell the audience a little bit about that? Talk about Jungle Scout. What that experience was like, and that ultimately led you to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I mean, Jungle Scout is an Amazon product research tool, helps Amazon sellers sell on Amazon. I had some previous experience in e-commerce, kind of like on the brand side, or almost more. I was part of a private equity firm that kind of like incubated and also invested in portfolio brands. So that's how I kind of cut my teeth in e-commerce, working on the brand side, doing the marketing. And yeah, so I started at Jungle Scout in 2015, fall of 2015, as it was a Chrome extension that founder CEO Greg Mercer had built, and then was building out a software tool, a software as a service, basically a similar product to help people find products, to validate products, and launch their product or brand on Amazon. And yeah, so this is relevant to where I'm at now, because not only was it more experience, I was leading the marketing team. I started as the only marketer working alongside Greg. Learned a lot from Greg. I think Greg is an incredible marketer and has a vision, but also the educational chops to help people, because Amazon seems, maybe it's relatively straightforward. You're going to buy a widget from China, slap a private label on it, and then sell it on Amazon. But there really are so many different potential pitfalls or challenges or questions that people have, and Greg did a great job of educating. And so I kind of like, I learned a lot from watching him do it. And it was also an instrumental point for me, because part of the founding team were two developers, As and Diedrich, who I worked really well with, got along well with, became great friends. And we also wanted to build our own software tool in the future. And so in 2020, we were no longer a Jungle Scout. We were doing our own thing, and realized that we did want to build a product, a software tool in the e-commerce space, but not in Amazon. So after thinking about what some ideas are, where some needs are, speaking with merchants, we did realize that there was a gap in terms of helping brands ask a few questions. And this is where selling on Amazon is very different than selling on Shopify, because Amazon's listings are built around a specific keyword. So it's very SEO focused. So you know that you are going to be selling a blue shirt for boys 4 to 7, and you can build your listing around that. But if you are, say, selling t-shirts, and you're selling to it could be a boy, it could be a girl, it could be a man or woman, you don't necessarily know these things until you maybe ask a few questions. And with those few data points, it can unlock so much information on how you want to position your brand and the product. You understand what problems your customers are facing and what they consider their ideal endpoint or goal is. And so, we started launching in, we built in 2020 and launched in early 2021.
Wow.
Yeah, so
seems very fast. That's a fast turnaround.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is and it isn't. But in that time, I mean, things in e-commerce go so fast, and this was like the pandemic, like e-commerce sales, everybody was buying online. And you remember like e-commerce sales fast forwarded basically 10 years in the course of a few months in terms of e-commerce penetration. But also there were tailwinds for us in terms of these changes in data privacy, consumer privacy. iOS 14.5 rolled out. So all of a sudden, merchants who were so reliant on these ad platforms to run profitable campaigns could no longer target or run ads as well as they were previously. So all of a sudden, there was an urgency to build a direct relationship with customers, capture their contact information, whether phone number or SMS. And then this notion of zero-party data became far more important. So maybe we can just actually clarify or define what zero-party data is.
You got my first question right there.
All right.
I would love
Yeah,
for you to clarify
you.
for our audience what zero-party data is.
Sure. So zero-party data is I think Forrester defined it as data that a consumer willingly and proactively shares with you, the brand. And contrast that with first-party data, which is data that a brand is capturing, but capturing passively. The consumer does not necessarily know that the brand is capturing their transaction history, their lifetime value, their pages they visited, their actions on the screen or on a page. But from this data, brands can be proactive and say, okay, like Ramin bought this product. Let's assume that he has dry skin because he bought a moisturizer. And then so they're building campaigns around this. But we don't know that. Ramin could be giving it to his friend or his wife as a gift. But if there's zero-party data where Ramin is telling us what challenges he has, what type of skin or what his interests or preferences with buying a mattress are, then all of a sudden we do know with certainty that these are things that we can share with Ramin. And so the outcome of that is that you're able to level up the relevancy and the engagement and improve your ability to personalize the campaigns that we're sending you.
That's great. But that's one of the best explanations, by the way, just using real world examples, because you're right. Somebody could be buying it as a gift and we're making assumptions the other way around. And why make assumptions when we can literally ask the question, right? Just get it out there. And that's obviously where something like a quiz comes into play. So just tell me, in terms of capturing this zero-party data and the world of quizzes, you may just walk us through a process. I mean, we referenced Helix and how they do it, how they build a quiz, and theirs is very interactive, and it's got images and things like that. What's the process on building a quiz, and especially if I come to pre-hook? What am I doing? How am I getting this thing started?
Yeah. So I mean, we won't make it specific about our product, and there are other quiz platforms, but like who would it be for? I think that a quiz would be a helpful tool for any brand that frankly like might have just more than one SKU. I say like a quiz isn't always helpful for single SKU brands because it's more about the one product and you can just kind of like a quiz might be overkill in that sense. But if you can sell your product better with a sales associate, or if you had the ability to speak with a person and could improve your chances of conversion, then a quiz might be a good fit for you. So and apologies for the sounds in the background.
That is fine.
So how would you start building a quiz? I think most helpful would be, what data points do you need? What would be helpful to help you improve your segmentation, to help you improve your dynamic personalization, or to help you improve, like even in product research, to help you gather data points in a structured way, so you're not like having to sift through support tickets or sales calls. What would be helpful for a brand to work with? So once you have that, then you can kind of like build quiz around. This is Evolve Skateboards, electric skateboard brand. That's a pre-hook customer. So that's a pre-hook quiz that we're looking at. And I really like it because they have a wide range of inventory, and their boards are very different, whether you're commuting or whether you're doing it for fun, whether you're going on road or off road, whether you're like based on your price point or what you're hoping to get out of it. And so I think the key to an effective quiz is to ensure that you're asking questions that are helpful to you as a merchant, but that
Sure.
are also helpful to the consumer to get to their endpoint. Because
Yeah.
ultimately,
Yeah.
a quiz is this exchange of value
Sure.
where I'm going to ask you a few questions, and in return, you're going to tell me some things that will ensure that it's a better customer experience and
Hmm.
shopping experience. Um, where there was an interesting stat, and I think it was from Accenture, on personalization, and I think it's like 70 or 80% of consumers are willing to share personal data with the expectation that they're going to receive a personalized experience in
Yeah.
return.
Yeah.
And for those brands that can execute on that promise of delivering a personalized experience, they will see a higher average order value, higher conversion rate, and ultimately a higher repurchase rate, and therefore higher lifetime value. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of like the table stakes are very real in terms of revenue lift, as you were saying in your
Sure.
introduction.
Yeah. So you tell, so, you think with the end in mind, what data you ultimately need to capture. And then ultimately also how that data is going to translate maybe into giving customers information, product recommendations, things like that, because you're asking for something, from them, and you're giving them something in return. And then the other part of the puzzle is what you do with that data, right? When that data comes in, when you pull that data in, and you guys connect with Klaviyo, Attentive, Postscript, to name a few. When that data comes in from the quiz, what's happening to it? What is it doing? What is it triggering? What are my options with it ultimately?
Yeah. Great question. So we can work with Klaviyo as an example, and Omnisend is the other key one that
Right.
you didn't mention. But the data is sent through as a custom property.
Hmm.
So basically, like for Ramin's profile of a mattress lead,
Hmm.
we know that he's shopping for two people. We know that he wants this size, that it's him and he weighs this much and his wife weighs this much, and
Hmm.
whatever. Like all that is in your profile, and
Right.
therefore, how can you use it? Okay, so you can create segments of
Hmm.
based on your recommended product. That comes through as a data point in Klaviyo. So we know what your recommended product is, which means that we're setting a post quiz. You can set up
Hmm.
a post quiz flow.
Hmm.
And in that, you might set a wait condition of 20 minutes. Did Ramin buy? Yes or no? And if he did
Mm.
not buy, then let's send him an email with his recommended product. And here's why. And
Right.
so then you can also dynamically include blocks. So
Mm.
Ramin sleeps on his back and has neck pain. So we
Mhm.
can send educational content about why this makes sense, how our product can directly address his pain points, his literal
Mhm.
pain points. So it's a dynamic personalization, it's a segmentation, and then in Klaviyo as well, you can create conditional splits based on these custom properties. So
Mm.
that means if we go through with this mattress example, um, if if they're a back sleeper, then
Mhm.
let's go down, send them more information about back sleeping or something, or if
Right.
he's a side sleep. And that's not necessarily a great example, but just to show that you can have different content based on the quiz
Mhm.
responses.
Yeah.
Um, so generally, you can, especially for Klaviyo or Omnisend brands,
Mhm.
you're having a post quiz flow. In the quiz, you're capturing their email and or their phone number, and
Mhm.
then so you can intersperse emails and phone numbers. And of course, and I'm sure you're setting up flows for your brands.
Mhm.
They're very kind of like specific to the actions that your customers or leads are looking
Yeah.
for or doing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm still wondering why, I have not heard from Helix since I made the purchase.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, I did get, in the beginning, yes, they reminded me, quite often that I had taken the quiz and these were the recommendations. So they did all of that. But I always thought that, and then maybe they haven't launched. And if they launched a side sleeper specific pillow, they have that data for me already, right? They know that
Mhm.
I'm a side sleeper, that I should be again, it could be a scenario where they don't have that product yet necessarily, or maybe they do. And maybe somehow I've been lost in the funnel somewhere, but I would do that, right? Take that data, and it should be a long-term, mattresses, people aren't buying mattresses, too often, right? There's a long time, but to do something with that data is really important. Don't just capture it, work with it, continue to educate and continue to send product recommendations, especially if you're a brand where product is, purchased more often than, let's say, a mattress would be. So I was struck by something, on your to the web on demand webinar that you have on the site. You had a pre conversation with the audience, and you were very adamant. And I love this, that pop ups as we know them, email capture pop ups. They are margin. They're stealing stealing margin basically, because you're giving away 10%, 20, 25. Percent, whatever it is, and really all you're getting out of it is an email address. You're not getting that data you need, and that quizzes are really a better way to go. And it's funny, we're in this we're in this business, and we rely heavily on we do quizzes, and we rely heavily on the pop up as well. But for a moment, it was like, yeah, you know what? You don't have to give away margin. You can just get information and give recommendation, and that's really much more effective at the end of the day. Can you just talk to us a little bit about that, and why brands should, maybe they do both. Maybe there's an A/B test going on, but just talk to us a little bit more about, replacing your pop-up with now using a quiz.
Yeah, absolutely. So it reminds me of this Andrew Chen, who's a VC at Andreessen Horowitz. He says there's a law of shitty click-throughs, and it kind of like relates to banner ads from the late 90s, where the cost per clicks were super cheap, and it was kind of novelty, so everybody would be clicking on ads, and it became easy. Same thing with opt-ins. Like, oh, I can, I have an email address now, I can get more emails, so I'll just add my email address. But the novelty wears off, it becomes oversaturation, and ultimately you're seeing, where opt-ins might have been 50% a couple decades ago, now per Sumo, and Sumo is like an opt-in tool, and they're seeing over millions of impressions that it's a 2% opt-in rate. So for every 100 people that visit your site, 2 people will add their email address, and it's probably going to go down, because every single site, your email list is your evergreen asset. It's critical, of course, but everybody is doing their pop-up. And so to incentivize that, to get more people to do it, well, just, hey, join our VIP club or join our community. That's not enough anymore. There needs to be a little more of a carrot. That might be your 10, 15, 20% discount. But as you say, that not only has direct margin drain, where that 15% discount comes directly from the profit that would have happened on a sale, but it dilutes the brand equity, where on the first visit somebody's getting offered a 15% discount, and then also it's like almost an email in a vacuum, where there is no context to that. So if it's, let's say, a fragrance brand, like, so what? Okay, what do we send them now? Is it going to be a perfume for women or a cologne for men? Is it going to be fruity or is it going to be woodsy? Like, you have no idea of what this person is looking for. All you have is an email address. And so therefore the brands that have that are left in a little bit of a disadvantage, like how to actually segment or use any data associated with that to inform what to send them. So a quiz is a great option. And I'm not saying just outright like use a quiz instead of an opt-in. It's definitely worth a test. But you are giving the shopper an engaging experience, where you're having almost the conversation as you would if you were an in-person sales associate.
Right.
You're capturing an email, so that lead in your Klaviyo ESP or CRM has a lot of information around what that person's looking for, and then you're able to recommend a product and then build a flow around that recommended product. And so those are kind of like the 3 pillars that we're focusing on offering to merchants, is to accelerate list growth, to improve conversion rate by simplifying the buying process, and then capturing zero-party data so that you know what this person is looking for. And so our quizzes, you might see, you can do the back of the envelope math on this, like an opt-in rate of say 60 to 70, 80% of people who start a quiz would complete it.
Wow.
And often in that quiz is a lead capture, email, SMS, or both. And so if you're running paid ads, for example, to a product description page or something, and you're capturing an email address there, let's say generously it'd be 5%, or you're sending them to a page where they take the quiz, and it might be, it's going to be multiples of that. All of a sudden your cost per lead is being reduced by a lot, and you're getting a lot more data associated with that. So that's kind of like how we think about
Mhm.
a quiz as a way to build your list, and that's kind of like the topic of this conversation now.
Sure. No, that's amazing. I mean, those numbers are very impressive, and I love, well, I don't love that this happens, but this is comes naturally. We as marketers, when we see something is working, we do it a lot, right? And you mentioned banner ads in the early days, pop-ups now, and the consumer gets inundated with this, and they have fatigue over this, and then we find another element. But what I love about quizzes is that I don't think it's one of those things that's going to ultimately, go through that, evolution, because you are asking questions that ultimately lead to a piece of information being given to you. So there's I guess a prize, if you will, at the end of the quiz. And what I would love to know is, the completion. So we talked about, most people, I think you get the percentage of most people are completing the quiz. But what happens if they don't? Let's say they get halfway through it. Is any data getting passed, or can any of that data? Because the first step is they're putting their email address in, correct? So we have that, right? And then we go
It
through.
depends.
Okay.
I mean, it's totally up to the discretion of the brand, but
Right.
so that you cannot ask upfront. Often, in my opinion, it's
Mhm.
best to ask easier questions upfront,
Mhm. Good.
so that it's almost like a micro conversion. Get them warmed up, have them answer questions that are easy to answer. Hey,
Yeah.
what's your name? Where are you living? What's your age maybe?
Sure.
But yeah, to answer your question, there is no data attached until there is an email or a phone number in which to attach it to.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay. No, that's good. That's good to know. And I guess it really, when you're mapping your questions, this here, herein lies the goal, is to keep them engaged enough, and not over ask too, right? You don't want a quiz that is so long that people are just, that's when the fatigue sets in, I guess. They're like, I'm done. I'm not going to answer any more questions
Exactly right.
from this brand. What have you seen out there, that, let's point to brands that are doing quizzes really well. Who have you seen? I mean, we mentioned, Helix, and you've got a few examples of Warby Parker and a few others, but just give me some, maybe just one off the top of your head that they're doing really well, and why they're doing it so well.
Yeah, of course. Um, so just to clarify, Warby Parker, that's a custom brand, custom
Right.
quiz. That's not ours.
Yep.
One that is ours, that I do know because I've worked with the founder on the quiz,
Hmm.
is T-Lixer. So
Hmm.
T-Lixer is an adaptogen brand. They sell, adaptogens are basically ancient mushrooms used for
Mm.
medicinal purposes. So,
Yeah.
even though it has been around for a very long time, the modern consumer isn't necessarily familiar with Reiki, reishi, or lion's mane,
Right.
or the different teas,
Yeah.
um, how they're used. So they have different benefits.
Hmm.
Um, and so it's this idea, there's almost like a customer education that's necessary, and
Hmm.
then the product recommendation that's necessary. So there's a little bit of like the uh, that is a challenge that the brand was facing. So this Daniel Whitechurch, who is the co-founder of T Elixir, he had these health issues. He was a touring musician, and
Mm.
he realized that this adaptogen was actually a very healing option for him in terms of his anxiety, his sleeplessness, his achy joints. But because each product had different benefits, it was
Mm.
harder for merchants or for customers to know which product was best. So he tested a quiz. It's done very well for him,
Wow.
and the reason why it's done well is I think it's relatively straightforward.
Hmm.
So it's not that hard for a customer to answer any of the
Hmm.
questions, and it simplifies the decision making and the buying. So there's always kind of like, whether it's below the surface or subconscious, a little bit of anxiety of, okay, I need this, but like, which product is right for me?
Hmm.
It becomes a far more pleasant, streamlined experience if I answer questions that are easy for me to answer, and then
Hmm.
just be told, okay, this makes sense. And if you think of going to any store, like even a sommelier in a restaurant, where they're
Right.
they're learning a little bit about what your challenges or goals are, how your price point, and then, hey, this
Right.
will be great for you. Here's why,
Hmm.
and that they're recreating that. And quantitatively, what it's amounted to is I think they've doubled their opt-in rate
Wow.
in terms of leads. Their revenue per customer, I think they've 5x those who take the quiz versus those who have not.
Hmm.
So they're able to squeeze more juice or revenue out of the leads that they're gathering because they're capturing that. And so once they've tested it, they've validated that it works, then they've kind of gone full throttle with it in terms of emailing their existing list, or any email that
Nice.
they're sending their existing list. They also have a take the quiz option or link, because even if somebody has opted in, there's
Mhm.
always room to enrich the profile in Klaviyo. And
Oh,
on the
nice.
back end, they've created segments, they've created flows. So those, once those custom properties are filled in, they might get dropped into a segment of
Mhm.
somebody who's dealing with or wants to solve their anxiety or wants to help their
Yeah.
sleeplessness. So that's been great. Also, in terms of merchandising the quiz on the site, they have it in their header nav, they have it on their homepage, they have a landing page for it, they have exit intent pop-ups to take the quiz. Hey, like,
Mhm.
haven't found what you're looking for. So they're able to use it to get a lot more people in at the top of the funnel,
Mhm.
which makes sense. If you're getting 2x the
Sure.
opt-in rate, why not use that as opposed to sending them to a normal email opt-in page?
Yeah. So when you worked with the founder, did you make recommendations on, don't ask more than this many questions, or, cap it at this? Is there a rule out there on how many you should ask and how many is too many?
I think the rule is it depends, and ask
Okay.
as few as possible while still gathering as much valuable information as possible.
Okay.
Um, because of course you can ask everything under the sun. What your
Right.
favorite cocktail is, or what your favorite season is, or if you're an animal, what would it be? That doesn't matter. That's not going to help their marketing. And all you're
Sure.
going to do, Typeform has some great data on this, because the curve, there's with every question, the likelihood of completion
Mhm.
declines or decreases.
Yeah.
So you're, especially if you're running paid traffic to it, you're losing money, or you're losing the opportunity to capture the lead if
Mhm.
you're asking questions that are irrelevant, or just too much, and the experience becomes kind of like fruitless.
Yeah. No,
So
that's
yeah,
great.
depending on the type of brand, of course it depends, but a five or so,
Okay.
5, 7 might make sense. If it's more of like, a brand like Hims or Hers or Romans that are more like
Mhm.
health based and it's a lead qualification, then more might make sense.
Mhm.
Or if it's about something that's almost like a patient intake form, then more
Right.
questions certainly make sense. But uh, yeah, I think 5 to 7 is a good number to max out at.
Okay, no, that's great. It's funny. I always like to point to, in the world of email marketing and SMS marketing as well, that the two, possibly, in my opinion, the two most important things are capture of some kind, email capture of some kind, and segmentation. Right, the more
Mm.
powerful, and quizzes solve both of those right
Yeah.
away. Right, I mean, you're going to capture, assuming they finish. And you're going to be able to segment based on the data that they put in at the end of the day. So you solve both of those. And this is not to take anything away from everything in the middle of email systems, actually writing the content and creating the emails and SMS messages. But these are the pillars, if you will, of email and SMS. If you don't capture, you've got nothing.
Hmm.
If you can't segment, you can't leverage the power of Klaviyo to get your message out to the right people at the right time. So this is why I love quizzes. I love the idea. I love the execution, and pointing to brands that are doing it very well. Have you ever seen a quiz not done well? Maybe not necessarily anybody who's using pre-hook, but maybe some outside of the world. And you don't need to name any names. It may be something that they did that you didn't think was a good idea.
Um, yeah, I definitely have seen quizzes that do ask the superfluous questions
Yeah.
that aren't really related. And I maybe it's inspired by some of these BuzzFeed or New York Times type of quizzes that have gone viral of like, if
Right.
you were a princess, what type of princess would you be? And
Right.
or prince. But
Right.
yeah, those that are asking questions almost like for the sake of it,
Mhm.
um, or maybe go a little bit too far in being whimsical or witty. I think in some ways it's
Mhm.
very similar to copywriting, like straight and to the point, easy to understand.
Sure.
Uh, because ultimately, I think just like conversion rate optimization. You're just trying to like reduce the number of clicks to get people to take your desired action. And when you're asking too many questions, silly questions, you're not doing that. So you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah. Well, tell me this. I don't know if you've ever come across this question with brands out there, but maybe certain industries that maybe are a little bit behind the e-commerce times. You know, they're just getting into that world. Have you ever heard anybody say, "I'm worried about adding a quiz to my site. I'm worried that it's going to annoy my potential customers or even my existing customers"? Have you ever heard that before? And if so, what's your response to that?
I actually haven't heard that.
Okay, good. Good.
But if I were, first of all, it's not like there are some brands where a quiz is a requisite part of the onboarding experience, and this is brands like recurring e-commerce brands, like say Stitch Fix or Scentbird, where you're getting something. Part of the buying process is you let us know what type of stuff you're looking for, and we'll send you a package every month or every quarter or whatever. And then you have to take a quiz. Otherwise, it's completely optional. So that's where I would say, you know, it's an option in the same way like that you would have a blog. You don't need to have a blog, but you could have it there, and people can take it or read through it and help inform themselves. A quiz, ideally, you're positioning it with a hook or with some value offer that's compelling enough that somebody would want to take it. And if it's more of like it'll be an annoyance, it's either how you're positioning the quiz, you know, with your copywriting and your hook, or you know, maybe you're forcing people unnecessarily to take it. But the ideal scenario is that it's there as a tool to help improve the customer experience.
Sure, sure. And you know, and then beyond the, you know, improving the customer experience, creating personalization, you know, it helps with you know, capture, email and SMS capture. It helps with segmentation. It also helps grow revenue, right? And I think, you know, really, you know, many will point to all of those other elements being very important, but we are in, you know, if we're an e-commerce brand, we're in business to make money, grow business, profit, and continue on. What kind of numbers should we expect, you know, from, you know, quizzes in terms of revenue creation and revenue generation?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I don't think it's fair necessarily to expect a revenue, but you can like use your current numbers, and and I think in a similar way, quantitatively for brands that are doing a side by side segment. And this is in Google Analytics, which is actually like it's like the most recent integration where we integrate with Google Analytics. How your quiz, people who've taken the quiz perform, those who have not taken the quiz perform. And by and large, what I've heard from merchants that have done this analysis is that people who take the quiz convert at a higher rate and have a higher average order value. So this is encouraging to know. But I think you might say, okay, what's my benchmark? Because every brand, every niche, every vertical has a different kind of like standard or benchmark of what success looks like. But I think it's hard to say, you know, universally, this is what you should expect. But I think it's at least worth testing and getting you know, validate that with a data-driven analysis. And I think you might see that those that take the quiz have performed better or moved towards the ideal in terms of customer persona and behavior on the site.
That's great. That's great. What is, just tell me, you know, maybe I'm a merchant right now listening. I've not done quizzes on my site. I've been doing things the old-fashioned way using email pop-up. But I like what I hear. I'm ready to do this. How long would it take me to install Prehook, get the Klaviyo integration in place, and create my first quiz up and running on my site? What's your, you know, start to finish?
Start to finish. Well, first of all, I'm happy to offer my services to help you. Again, GEN at prehook.com. So happy to help. But our goal in building this was to make it as like a very simple, easy to use product, as in elegant, like no technical coding required. So the snippet is easy as copying and pasting. The integrations as easy as copying your public API key, 6-digit code, paste it in. And then like kind of plug and play templates to give an idea of what type of questions or data points would be helpful if you're a pet brand, or if you're a fragrance brand, or if you're a coffee brand. So we have a library of templates that are designed. And to answer your question, I would say start to finish, probably under 45 minutes, under 30
Beautiful.
minutes. Like if you know what questions you're asking, and you want to just like kind of spin it up, and of course you can get far more detailed with conditional logic and the recommendation logic, and personalizing the different paths based on quiz responses. That's all possible with our platform. But if you want to just get it up and running quickly, just to kind of like see how it feels, and how people are doing it, free 14-day trial too. So yeah, with in light of the holidays, Black Friday, Cyber Monday coming up, it is a good opportunity to test as a lead gen tool. So throw it up on a landing page, send paid traffic to it, put it in your header, and it's not like you necessarily need to shift everything towards it, but at least like, okay, our current cost per lead is X dollars. What is it if we're sending him to a quiz page instead of a product description page or a collections page?
Right.
And so that's one way to validate, like, okay, a quiz is good. Then you'd be looking at kind of like the conversion metrics. What's the conversion rate? What's the order value? What's the repeat purchase rate? And all these things. So like you can get started in many different ways and levels of sophistication in your data analysis. But we have a free 14-day trial, so it's quick and easy to get set up.
Yeah, I would say it's no brainer, especially when the co-founder is willing to take a call and help walk you through how to build a quiz. So anybody listening, take advantage of that. That's that, and really at the end of the day, and I think 45. I mean, that's nothing in our 45 minutes. I mean, it's very little time to get there. But I think you're pointing to something interesting here, is that don't just set it and forget it. Don't just put it up there. Analyze the data. Look at the data. Tweak it. Adjust your questions. If you're not seeing a great adoption rate, with the quiz, if you're not seeing a good completion rate, make some changes, cut down on your questions, adjust, but then do something with the data. Work the data, get the data to work for you. This is your zero-party data. This is what is going to, we talk about the cookieless future and all this is happening to us right now. You need this data as an e-commerce brand. So you should have been doing this yesterday, right? You should start get it up and running quickly, because you will be so much further ahead when that time comes, when you're really, really going to need it. You're going to need that data. Tell me just real quickly, what any industries out there that you have seen that really haven't adopted quizzes, e-commerce industries that you really wish they would? Is there anybody out there that comes to mind, or is it very sporadic and just all over the place? A lot of different industries are already using it.
Yeah, I think a lot of industries are. So those that are beauty. So it's like kind of like skincare or foundation finder type stuff, hair care, pet brands, food and beverage, apparel, outdoor. These are all kind of like brands that see a lot of value in quizzes. Those that don't, that should. Off the top of my head, I don't know, maybe like B2B e-commerce. Although I don't see a lot of those, but like that's almost like a lead qualification or a sales intake form, which would be helpful. You as an agency probably do have that.
I was just thinking, we rack our brains always for the lead generation approach, asking some questions, and then we get to know that prospect that's coming in the door. We're going to know more about it. We're going to get the zero-party data from them, right?
Yeah, exactly. If they're under your threshold of a revenue brand that makes sense for you, maybe you just refer them to an ebook. But if they're doing more than that, then maybe you want to jump and invest the time to take a call. And so same would apply to if you're selling like reams of paper, or if you're selling like cabinets or whatever online. But I think that lead qualification for quizzes, I don't see that often.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Well, let's jump out of quizzes for a second, and let's take you back to your alma mater, Cornell, SC Johnson, right? School of Business. And they invite you to come back. They want you to speak.Maybe this has already happened, by the way. They invite you to come back and speak to an e-commerce entrepreneurship class. These are group of students that are getting ready to build their empire, get out there in the world. What piece of advice would you give them in this day and age that will prepare them for, really making a difference in e-commerce and really growing a successful business?
Yeah, I mean, so that was 10 years ago where I graduated from business school, and I think the kind of like what you touched on in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm seeing a shift in a lot of these creator-founded brands, whether it's like Chamberlain Coffee, for example, or Skims. These are like
Yeah.
people that have built a huge audience on social media, and then layering in merchandising a product or selling a product on the back end of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's this notion of building an audience and constantly putting out content. Choose one channel or two channels that feel right for you, that feel right for your target audience. And if you can almost build a media brand around it first, then you're
Mm-hmm.
making your likelihood of success or you're on road towards launching that much easier.
Yeah.
And so I've seen that with brands and these days, if you're maybe, like I was saying in the beginning, like there's been a blueprint of running paid ads. You're spinning up, you're raising
Mm-hmm.
some money, you're launching with beautiful packaging.
Mm-hmm.
It fits in the kind of the ethos of what people are looking for, and then you launch it. 10 years ago, you could run a lot of paid ads and succeed and get in front of the right people. Now with iOS 14.5 and some of the targeting options that aren't as available, there's more of a reliance on brands to kind of like maybe they're running ads less profitably,
Mm-hmm.
but if they can create their moat and create an audience on organic social, whatever that might be for their niche, that would be a huge advantage. So that's what I would
Nice.
recommend, is kind of like creating a content strategy from the start, and then really focusing on executing that.
Yeah, there's that book. It reminds me of Content Marketing Inc. or Content Inc. That was written actually 10 years ago, really talking about that. Don't be afraid of putting that content out there. We always tend to keep our ideas, quiet,
Yeah.
and they're more, get it out there, start talking, because you'll build that first 1,000, loyal customers before you even launch your brand, and then when you do, they're there. They're already there waiting for you, excited to see what you have. That's great advice. And, the space is evolving rapidly, but I still think it's in its infancy. There's so
Yeah.
much to do. I could sit here and talk to you all day about this again. I mean, the world of e-commerce, the world of, email and SMS marketing and how quizzes fit into this. I'm very passionate about, where things are going, and you're a wealth of knowledge and been fantastic to have on the show. I'm really glad that you guys reached out to us, and maybe we'll do it over pickleball, right?
Let's do it. November 1st.
November 1st.
Dreamland.
Before we wrap everything up, I want to ask you a few rapid fire questions just to bring a little fun into the world. Not that, I think you and I could probably talk about this and have fun all day, but let's get what gets you excited to wake up and tackle the day?
Pick up basketball.
Oh,
If you play,
nice.
I have I wake up at 5 o'clock on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and have a game.
Wow.
So I get to the gym at 5:30 and play till about 8. And I love it. That's
Oh my
like,
God.
that's my
That's
thing.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that. That's
But then
a huge
also, of course,
basketball
taking
fan.
my kids to school.
Yeah. Well,
On those
yes.
days,
And
I'm not doing that.
to be able to take your kids to school, that's awesome. And that's you're an entrepreneur, and carving that time out in your day is great. And I'm a huge basketball fan, so I'd love to hear that you're getting up every morning and playing basketball. Who's your favorite basketball team? Not a rapid fire question.
Well, I mean, I lived in San Francisco during the glory days,
Okay, got it.
2013 and 2016. So yeah, I was definitely on the Warriors bandwagon, but actually more so about the players. I love Steph and Clay,
Yeah.
Steph Curry, Clay Thompson.
Yep.
And yeah, there's just a young crop of guys coming up that are really fun to watch. But yeah, I watch a lot of like individual highlights.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's awesome. So when you get up in the morning, you go play basketball Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The days, I guess, when you come back, what's your drink of choice?
Oh, black coffee.
Okay, black coffee.
Yeah,
Okay.
Greater Goods.
I think 25 episodes in, if I had to guess correctly, 22 have said black coffee. So
yeah.
If you weren't doing the job that you're doing today, what else would you be doing?
I love youth sports. So sports were really kind of an integral part of my childhood. Playing sports, I focused a lot on tennis from maybe like 10 years old, and got to the point of like on the team at a varsity level in college
Nice.
for a year. But it was so important in many ways in terms of discipline and work ethic, and interacting with others and having goals and trying to meet them. So yeah, I've coached my daughter's basketball team a couple
Wow.
times. Have a son who shows early interest in at least playing with balls. So that
Nice.
would be something that I would certainly
That's
enjoy
awesome.
doing.
All right, great. What's your go-to SaaS or app that you just one you can't live without? You look at it every single day, multiple times a day.
Work-wise, I really like Loom.
Yeah.
Loom are just like quick recording videos. So like if people are having challenges with their product, or it's really just like, hey, here's some quick ideas on how you might want to build out a flow, or how the data comes through and how you trigger a flow. Whatever
Sure.
it is, I find it helps to put a face to the name. I can get a lot more across in just a 5-minute video.
Yeah.
Than writing it out, and it's far more consumable, and it's one way to build an asynchronous personal relationship.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. We are big fans of Loom. More can be said in the video. They can be and less
Totally.
typing,
Yeah.
right? If you could give yourself one talent that you don't currently have, what would it be?
I I want to say something in the creative space, whether
Mm.
it's like dancing.
Mhm.
Uh,
Huh?
it's not fun to be at a wedding and you're like friends pushing you into the middle of the dance floor. No,
Right.
please don't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
So dancing or playing a musical instrument
Okay.
would be great. And
Nice.
I can do it if I just put the time in. I'm not talented per se, but like there's no
Right.
reason why I can't do it.
Sure.
But I just haven't.
Yeah. No, that's great. And last question for you: what's your favorite online store and why?
Favorite online store? Nike.com actually has,
Mm,
they have some great deals every once in a while. Like right now,
nice.
or they have LeBrons for 50% off, the LeBron
Whoa.
19s.
Really?
Yeah, LeBron
Oh, there it
19s.
is.
Yeah, because he just released his 20s, LeBron
Ah,
20s, and so the 19s are on sale. So I got mine for $100, which are
wow. That's
a
amazing.
great deal, 50% off. So
That's a great deal. I will. Funny. I never think of Nike as on Nike.com of giving deals out. Because they're Nike. They don't need to.
well,
But
they
that's
still have
very
to
interesting.
liquidate their inventory.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, this has been again. I mean, amazing information. I've wanted to cover this topic of quizzes for a long time. I'm so happy that your team reached out, and it's great to meet you and be able to talk. And I look forward again to seeing you next week over a little pickleball. Now I know that you actually played varsity tennis, so I'm going to be a little careful if we end up playing against each other. And I'm going to know you have an advantage on the pickleball court. Although who knows how pickleball and tennis, how
Totally.
I know this, there's similarities definitely, but very different too at the same time.
You told me you played in high
I
school,
did.
so
I
there you
did.
go.
Yeah.
This
So
is good.
yes. Well, very good. Well, again, just fantastic information. Thank you so much for being a part of the show, coming on, sharing your information. Just take a moment, if you could, and share with the audience where they can find out about Pre-Hook and your stuff and your podcast, which is incredible. Cart Overflow, great name, by the way. Love it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, tell everybody how they can find out about you.
Yeah, so our website is Prehook, prehook.com. And from there, yeah, I've tried to put as much resources as possible in terms of like zero party data or quizzes, and I send a newsletter out every week with
Nice.
some of the last stuff I've found. So feel free to drop in your email or email me directly, Gen at prehook.com. And like I said, yeah, absolutely, standing offer to help anybody build out their quiz or ask questions, but here to help. And especially now, like with Black Friday, Cyber Monday coming up, there are ways you don't necessarily need to like revamp your strategy, but it just could be something small to capture more leads and more information. And then
Yeah.
my podcast is Cart Overflow, so cartoverflow.com. Weekly emails on, or weekly episodes on
Nice.
e-commerce marketing.
Beautiful, beautiful, fantastic. Well, thank you again for coming on today. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you on the pickleball courts
Fantastic.
shortly. Okay.
Ramin,
All
thank you
right.
so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Have a great day. All right, that brings us to the end of another episode of the E-commerce Revolution podcast. And when I say that I can stay on for another hour or two and talk about this particular topic and many of the other topics, I'm not kidding. E-commerce is just exploding all around you. Email and SMS is really strong. If you're not using quizzes, jump on board. Test them out, start to see what that does. And for your zero party data, now that we all know what zero party data is, great example from our guest today. Again, just really shared, a really, clear understanding of zero party data. So if you need help with your email and SMS marketing, and you also need a quiz installed, absolutely reach out to us at hello, HELLO, at skuagency.com. Mention this podcast, and we'll take a look at your email and SMS, current email and SMS strategy, and give you a review and an audit on how you can do it better, which is valued at $850. It has been a pleasure to be with everybody today. Enjoy yourself. Be safe out there. See ya.